The hours were brutal, the margins were thin, and the work was relentless. But Truett showed up every single day because he believed that consistency was the foundation of trust. Truett Cathy was born on March 14, 1921, in Eatonton, Georgia, the fourth of 7 children raised in a household that knew hardship intimately. His mother, Lilla, ran a boarding house to keep the family afloat during the Great Depression, and it was watching her serve strangers with warmth and dignity that planted something deep inside the young boy. He learned early that hospitality was not a luxury, it was a language. By the time he was 8 years old, Truett was selling Coca-Cola bottles door to door in his neighborhood, not because someone told him to, but because he understood instinctively that work had meaning. That drive never left him. After serving in the United States Army during World War II, Truett returned home not with grand ambitions of empire, but with something far more powerful, a clear sense of purpose. He wanted to feed people. He wanted to build something that mattered. In 1946, alongside his brother Ben, Truett opened a small diner in Hapeville, Georgia, just outside Atlanta. They called it the Dwarf Grill, later renamed the Dwarf House, a modest 24-hour restaurant that seated just 10 people at the counter and 4 small booths. And Truett Cathy began to realize that what he had built was something far larger than a recipe. In the early 1960s, a poultry supplier approached Truett with chicken breasts that were too large for airline meal trays. Rather than turn them away, Truett experimented. He pressure-cooked a boneless chicken breast, seasoned it carefully, and placed it between 2 buttered buns with 2 simple pickle chips. What emerged from that small kitchen was not just a sandwich, it was a revelation. Customers who tasted it came back. Then they brought their friends, then their families. Truett had stumbled upon something the fast food industry had largely ignored, a chicken sandwich done with intention and quality. In 1964, he officially trademarked the name Chick-fil-A, a clever play on the word filet, signaling that this was not ordinary fast food. It was chicken elevated. He believed that language shaped culture and that small words carried enormous weight. Truett Cathy was a devout Southern Baptist, and his faith was not something he kept separate from his work. It was woven into every decision he made. The most visible and controversial of those decisions was closing every Chick-fil-A location on Sundays. In an industry where Sunday represented one of the highest revenue days of the week, this was considered financial madness by many business analysts. Truett did not waver. He believed his employees deserved a day of rest, a day for family and worship, regardless of the cost. Decades later, that decision would prove to be anything but a weakness. Chick-fil-A consistently generates more revenue per restaurant per year than any other fast food chain in America, including McDonald's, operating on only 6 days a week. The Sunday closure became a symbol of integrity, a signal to customers and employees alike that this company operated by a different set of values. The Cathy family had built not just a restaurant chain, but a cultural institution. Instead, he created an operator model where individual restaurant operators were carefully selected, required to invest only $5,000, and then given the opportunity to run their location as if it were their own business. The selection process was extraordinarily rigorous. Thousands applied each year, and only a small fraction were chosen. Truett was not looking for investors. He was looking for leaders, for people who shared his values and his vision for community. This model created extraordinary loyalty and accountability. Operators had skin in the game, not just financially, but personally. They knew their customers by name. They showed up when it mattered. The result was a network of restaurants that felt local, even as the brand grew national. By the time Truett's son Dan Cathy took over as Chief Executive Officer in 2013, Chick-fil-A had grown to over 1,800 locations across the United States. Dan carried his father's values forward while pushing the brand into new markets, new formats, and new conversations about corporate responsibility and community investment. Truett Cathy passed away on September 8, 2014, at the age of 93. He left behind a company generating over $6 billion in annual revenue, a family united in purpose, and a workforce of over 100,000 people who had been shaped by his example. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Truett also founded WinShape Foundation in 1984, a nonprofit organization dedicated to foster care, youth camps, and marriage enrichment programs. He personally mentored thousands of young people throughout his life, believing that business success meant nothing if it did not translate into human flourishing. Today, Chick-fil-A operates over 3,000 locations across 47 states and several international markets, consistently ranking among the most beloved and trusted brands in America. The Cathy family remains privately held, intentionally so, protecting the values that Truett established from the pressures of public markets. What began in a 10-seat diner in Hapeville, Georgia, fueled by a mother's example and a son's unshakable belief in doing things right, became one of the most remarkable business stories in American history. Proof that purpose, patience, and people will always outlast shortcuts.